California is not derived from the Latin words calida fornax, meaning hot oven. Arizona is not Spanish for arid zone, and Vermont is not French for green mountains. While all three of these theories have been put forward, only the last one, Vermont, has not had its correct origin more substantially verified. But all three of these theories suffer from the same word order problem, which is to say, all three assume that, as in English, the adjective in their original languages would be put before the noun, but they are all Romance languages. Well, I guess Latin is still technically a Romance language, it's just, Roman. Anyway, generally in Romance languages, the adjective is placed after the noun. So, while it's possible that the word Vermont does in fact derive from the French words for green mountains, the phrase in French would more properly be montagne verte. The theory, and possibly the phrase itself, was almost certainly suggested by a native English speaker. And while the origin of the name Vermont may never be known for sure, if you Google Vermont origin, you will almost certainly be met with the following sentence. Vermont is an English form of the name that French explorer Samuel de Champlain gave to Vermont's Green Mountains on his 1647 map. And while Champlain may well have placed those words on a map, he certainly did not do so in 1647, because he died in 1635. There are some charming, if apocryphal, stories about the origin of some state names. And while Romance languages have given us English speakers difficulty in tracking down etymologies, that is nothing compared to the trouble we've had with Native American languages, many of which were extinct before any English speaker even attempted to study them. The Lenape tribe of Delaware has a story about why they accepted the English word Delaware as their own. I will link to it below, but briefly, the story describes an exchange between an early English explorer and a Lenape native. The explorer had difficulty pronouncing the name of the tribe correctly, so when he finally got it right, the Lenape man exclaimed, "Delouet," meaning, "that's what I said." Some may find it quaint that the Delaware natives would go to the trouble of creating this story to explain why they use the name they do.
How quaint.
But I might refer you to the aforementioned Calida fornax and Arida zona.
How quaint.
While it is taken as a given nowadays that the word Oklahoma means red people or red men, an interesting and convincing article from 2017, which I will link to below, asserts the word is actually derived from an honorific in the Choctaw language. So Oklahoma more properly means something like courageous people or honorable nation. It was believed for years that Idaho was a Native American word, probably because the guy who made it up wanted people to believe that. And yes, I have a whole video on Idaho. There's a great article by journalist Justin Smith which details many of the wrong derivations of the word Idaho. I also have a video on Arizona, which was for decades believed to be a Tohono O'odham or Papago word meaning small spring, but is almost certainly a Basque word meaning good or valuable oak. Conversely, the word Oregon was believed to be either Spanish or French for either oregano or hurricane, but is now believed to be a Native American word from a tribe of the Pacific Northwest for a kind of fish oil that was produced by that tribe and highly coveted by others. Another Native American name that has had recent new life breathed into its derivation is Wisconsin. The word used to be translated as gathering of waters, along with a few other probable mistranslations like muskrat house, grassy place, and holes in the bank of a stream. But in 2003, historian Michael McCafferty published a paper arguing convincingly that the word actually means river running through a red place, and further asserting that the red place is the Wisconsin Dells. In 1857, prolific poet and statesman Alexander Beaufort Meek published a book which asserted that the word Alabama meant "here we rest," popularizing that theory until historians could clear up the confusion. The word actually means thicket clearers. Translating Native American words is not the only problem historians run into when looking for name derivations. Our own English language gives us plenty of trouble all by itself. My recent video on Maine details the adventures of trying to track down that name, and no, it wasn't named for the French province in honor of Queen Henrietta Maria. Pennsylvania was neither named by William Penn nor for William Penn. The name was actually chosen by King Charles II in honor of Penn's father, Sir William Penn. Had the younger Penn had his way, the colony would have been named New Wales. Contrary to a USA Today article from July of 2020, the word York, as in New York, was not derived from the Latin word for city. That Latin word would be urbs. York is taken from the city in northern England, which is probably derived from the Latinized form of the Celtic name for the yew tree. Plenty of our states' names have unknown etymologies. I've spoken before about Michigan, Kentucky, and Iowa, all of which have competing derivations that are, at best, debatable. But that doesn't stop people from asserting one of them as fact. Happens all the time. Even the derivation of Rhode Island is not known for certain. Two dominant theories still vie for prominence. One is that it was named by the explorer Verrazano because it reminded him of the Greek island of Rhodes, and the other is that because of the red clay along its shores, Dutch explorer Adrian Block named it Root Island, root being Dutch for red. While the word Colorado was certainly taken from the Colorado River, a river named by the Spanish because of the red silt that colors the water, it was not so named because that state contains the headwaters of that river. If you've ever watched my video on Idaho, you'll know that the name Colorado was chosen at the very last minute, when the first choice for a name was scrapped. That was in 1859, and at that time there was no part of the Colorado River that ran through the proposed new state. It was simply one of the most famous landmarks in the western half of the continent. And, well, they needed a name. In 1921, a tributary of the Colorado, which had until then been called the Grand River, was renamed the Colorado River so that a section of the river would run through the state that took its name. One state name derivation story that simply won't die is the idea that the word India, from which we get Indiana,
does the word duh mean anything to you?
Comes from the Italian phrase in Dio, meaning in God, a reference to a Columbus journal entry that refers to the native people he stumbled upon as El Gente Indio, or people of God. There are lots of problems with this theory, not least of which is that that phrase doesn't appear in any of Columbus's published journals. The theory seems to have been popularized by the late Lakota activist Russell Means, beginning around 1981, but it's not clear where he got it. Lots of states have derivations that are widely known and wrong, and that's not necessarily a dig on those who repeat those inaccuracies. It's just that historians are always doing new research and coming up with more and more plausible or provable theories about how and why a state got its name. I'm not one of those experts, but I do enjoy reading them, and I do appreciate that people are willing to do the work of ferreting out the history. I guess the moral of the story is, listen to the experts, and also, when those experts do new research and change their minds, continue to listen to them. Where have I heard that before?